Okay, so as you can see from the strategies that we've talked about up to this point, there are ways to influence a customer who is visiting either your site, your store, whatever that is, to cause them to buy your products. However, you have to understand your audience, your product's benefits, and the correct timing as to when to try each strategy. Once you start to implement some of these strategies in your store, on your site, whatever that may be, you will see that some work better than others on particular products or at different times. If you pay attention to when you go shopping, you can see instances of each of these strategies at work in your own buying behavior. And many retailers do train their staff to trigger buying behavior by evaluating the consumer's needs and choosing to interact at particular times with particular phases that trigger the subconscious to buy. It's really not magic, but it can seem to be sometimes. People go about their days mostly unconscious of their own motivations, and in sales, this can be a big advantage. They may all come from different backgrounds, but still, some behaviors like respect for authority, the desire to play with things, and the desire to bond through stories have their start in childhood programming. These daily habits become so powerful that as adults, we don't even think about why we respect experts, what makes something more fascinating than something else, and why everyone loves a good joke. Yet, that is all part and parcel of being human. Once you begin to understand your own triggers and why you do certain things, it becomes easier to predict what will trigger other people to close a deal or not. They are no different from you, and they will follow their better instincts too. So learn the psychology, seek to understand the dynamics of human behavior, and then try to find ways to influence people to increase your sales. That's how you turn a visitor into a customer and build lifelong relationships. As you get the hang of using all the tools available to create that hypnotic spell, you will find it easy to flip from, forums to blogs to sales pages, and maybe even into third-party vendors like even maybe eBay if you have goods that can be sold there. You will build the confidence you need that you know that works and when and what's the appropriate time to use one strategy over another to make a sale. You will have learned that it isn't difficult to engage people. It just takes a bit more skill since sometimes you're not face to face with a potential buyer. But once you have those skills, they can be used all over the internet or even offline to help you gather customers and sales from all over the globe. So let's talk about the next piece of this. And the next piece is, priming the buyer's greed glands. All right. So, I tell you, greed is a human trait. And maybe we'd like to ignore it because it's not very pretty, but it's a fact of life. People do get greedy, and when they do, they tend to lose all sense of reason. It's actually a pretty good time to use this human weakness to help you trigger the impulse to buy your products. In sales, greed isn't just about charging people the most money you can get out of them, although that's definitely one aspect that most use. It's also about providing the trigger so that your buyer believes they are getting a steal, either because of a price differential or cost versus benefit preview. It's a great way to just make one sale, but to close on a variety of items. Closeout and bargain hunting are a form of greed, even though it's viewed as frugality. It all depends on if the buyer is buying bargains because that's what they practically need in their life, or whether impulse to buy is spurred more by overactive greed glands that can't turn down anything resembling a steal of a deal. So, placing these types of deals out there can help you start to develop a sales strategy that attracts a wide range of buyers. So, what's the strategic plan here? It may surprise you to know that the disposable income level of your sales prospects actually define what a good deal is, not the actual value of the product or service you offer. That's because greed is relative to your economic prosperity. Even though high income wage earners are not immune to greed, it just takes a slightly different form. For instance, When you're trying to sell an item that might be worth $60 to a very well-heeled client, you might want to up the price to 100 and highlight the features and qualities of the product and see if they bite. The reason for this isn't just your own greed, but also the understanding that price to value is relative based on your disposable income. For someone making over $100,000 a year, an extra $40 is not seen as a lot of money, and they may be used to paying higher prices due to the markets they shop in. They might not even question the price. However, they will, assuredly question the quality and want to make sure that the purchase reflects their, station in life. The greed here is more about status than money. On the other hand, if you were to do the same with a person making less than $25,000 a year, that $100 set point may be enough for them to do some comparison shopping, and they'll pretty soon find out that they can buy the same item from your competitor for $40 less. You not only lose the sale, but you lose future sales too from that customer. So using greed to price your products is tricky. You have to understand your target demographic and specifically the income level of most of your customers. Then you can price accordingly. If you're not sure of the income level, you can always start using this strategy by offering a more expensive option first and then presenting a much less expensive option second. The difference in pricing and a clear explanation of the differences in features can be enough to make the greed glands and the demographic start to salivate. It appeals to the high income earners because it triggers their status greed in elevating the higher priced items as the must have product, not just because of additional features, but precisely because it's more expensive. It triggers the lower crowd because the less expensive option will be seen to be a minor sacrifice in the features for a large reduction in cost. So let's talk about the psychological triggers. Where does greed come from? It's said it is one of the original 7 deadly sins, but it's probably more a survival instinct. When human beings lived at the mercy of the elements and environment, there were wide disparities between times of prosperity and harsh times when drought, famine, or disease might invade the security of the home. So the instinct to hoard things and try to get a bigger share than someone else was basically an innate fear of survival because the future was so uncertain. That's why even people who are very well off are not immune to greed. It is inbred in our species and helped us as a species to survive very bad times, albeit at the expense of others at times. But the instinct to try to get a very good deal, even one you don't need immediately, is something that appeals to everyone, even if the tactic to implement it is different according to your demographic. In marketing, the skillful manipulation of price is what triggers this dynamic. Value is something that the buyer determines in a capitalistic system, so that it can fluctuate from person to person. So the way to engage a perception that your product is a steal is by manipulating the price in relation to the perceived value. Let's be very clear. The price itself is viewed as a fixed commodity to the buyer. It is the value that is fluctuating from person to person. If the price is low when compared to the perceived value, even if the price is actually quantitatively higher, then it is considered a steal by that potential buyer and the greed glands will kick into high gear. So you can either raise or lower the price to stimulate greed. It's that simple. That's the tool you have at your disposal. However, always do it in comparison to your understanding of the customer's perceived value of the product. So how do you implement this effectively? You may be scratching your head a bit confused about raising a price to stimulate greed. There is a strategy that you can use which shifts the perceived value in the buyer's mind while you do it. It's quite a bit more subtle than lowering a price to stimulate greed, but it can be done, especially for luxury or high price markets. Remember that as long as the prices are low in comparison to the perceived value, even if it's quantitatively a higher dollar value, it's still considered a steal. Here is how you might try to implement the greed factor in a high price market. Say you're selling a collectible fine china. You have several sets that are obviously worth hundreds of dollars, and you are interested in getting a stampede of buyers to your door to generate interest in the product. So you build a marketing campaign and you talk about how the value of the price of the fine china has increased over time, subsequently, and how rare it's becoming. Now, you're attracting the demographic of luxury buyers who are interested in not only quality goods, but they have a nose for a great deal too. So you say that in another 5 years, their investment in the fine china may be worth twice as much again. Be careful with that wording and be sure that they understand that past performance of an investment is no guarantee of future returns. So here we are very skillfully, changing the perception of this product from China to collectibles and an investment, not a household purchase. And we've even shown how the value might potentially increase after the purchase. So are we going to sell it for the actual value of the product? Of course not. We're selling an appreciated asset, not a household item. So now, the value of the product has increased tremendously in the buyer's mind, and we can command a higher figure than the actual present day value. Like they say, but wait, that's just the start of our greed enhancement program. Now, you say that while it's true that the China is a great investment, and of quality and high value, you can offer the public a great deal by offering it at a discount. Because you are either, going out of business, have an end of the year sale, celebrating your business anniversary, or whatever, it doesn't matter. Make up an excuse and make it somewhat believable. Then cut the price of the set from the higher price point to a lower price one, but one still substantially higher than what the product's present day value is worth. Another way to do this is not to cut the value of one set, but offer a discount on volume buying. This would work perfectly if you are selling place settings and you don't know whether they want 4, 8, or 12 place settings. However, they may think it's too expensive to buy 12 until you offer them a discount for buying 8 or more. You trigger the greed, and they will start to justify the reason why having extra sets on hand are a good idea. Finally, lowering the price of items is always a surefire way to attract greedy customers by the boatload. And you will soon discover that the amount of attention and enthusiasm you get for your sales is completely proportional to the differences in price drops. The lower the price, the more you sell, in other words. The only time when you can't make those sales is when the product is obviously junk and no one wants to buy it. But for the most part, if you continue to persuade your customers of the innate value of a product and lower the price, you can spur them in action to close the sale. So let's talk about timing this strategy. This is a strategy that can be used even before the customer shows up to your website or store. Yes, it is. You don't have to wait for them to show interest in your products. You don't have to wait for them to sign up to a mailing list. You can do this in mass advertising and bring customers in who will be attracted, by your specials and sales. This is an excellent tool for people in, say, direct mail and retail sales. You know that when you put out a special in one of those newspapers inserts or one of those value pack envelopes, which you are, practically guaranteed new customers as long as the offer is enticing enough to convince them to drop by. Well, on the internet, you don't even have to convince them to gas up their car and make the trip. You can simply put your link out there and invite them to click on it. You want to include your offer in various third-party forums and comment on, indiscreetly whenever you can. Be careful not to spam people, but you do want to advertise it on other places besides your own website. In order to get the widest exposure, you can offer to give key people in the same niche as you the deal for free if they review it and write about the value. While that may be a sweet enough deal for some, others will want to get a commission off of each product they promote and sell. Then you can also set up an affiliate program for that special. So, they're not only able to promote a great deal to their visitors, but they make money off the deal too. That's the true meaning of greed. When you butter the palms of everyone involved in the deal and make it a win-win-win for everyone. These types of offers are best as either introductory offers or closeout sales or end of season sales, etc. There should be a reason why you are able to offer these offers so that people don't become habitual to receive only sharp discounts from you and get offended when you put up a product at a regular price. And don't forget the luxury market too, when you want to implement this strategy. But instead of money, opt to hype the perceived value so that lowering of the price still keeps the initial price high. So take this strategy and really put it into place how it best fits in your strategy for your product or for your service. But almost all products purchased online or offline are purchased because um, of those greed glands. Now, that has nothing to do with, there's a difference between products that are, wants and desires versus have to have. We don't go to the grocery store and get cheese, and that's on a greed gland buy. Okay. It's all the other stuff around us that affects priming the buyer greed glands. All right. That concludes this video. We'll see you on the next one.